I'm David Lamb, and welcome to another edition of Retire with Freedom, the show that helps you plan the retirement you want. Today, Tad and Toni Hill, the founders of Freedom Financial, will explain how to recover if you get laid off, especially if it happens in the last years leading up to retirement. Also, in our Freedom Factor segment, Tad's going to show you what to do to insulate yourself and your family from an unlikely event or unforeseen event such as being laid off. And then later, we're going to be taking an extra large mailbag of questions from you, our viewers, who have faced or are concerned about facing this very significant challenge. First, though, let's welcome in Tad and Toni Hill. Good to see you too.
It's good to be here.
These are kind of crazy times in which we are living, so a timely conversation we're having today. So what happens if I lose my job? That concern is a reality. How do you advise folks to handle it?
Well, we're seeing a lot of that now. In fact, I'm working with 3 different families right now. We're working through this, and each of them have lost jobs due to different things. One, a business went out of business altogether, closed their doors. And one of them is been looking for a job for several months. He's in sales and he's still looking for a job, and we're trying to work through that. And another is and this is happening a lot too, they're being offered early retirement packages. Right. You know, and we've been seeing that for a decade or so.
Surplus.
Yes, yeah. They're trying to figure this out.
Companies have changed the name for it to make it sound less ominous.
Surplus
sounds nicer than the things that are happening. But here's the point. So I think that we've got to get, if we have some warning, let's get a plan in place now. Don't wait. If you think, if people see other people getting laid off or surplus or offering packages, and you hear that they're offering packages, please go figure this out. If what happens if it happens to you. Now let's say it's already happened, and if it's already happened, we can't do anything about that. But what we can do is, as soon as you can, it's really time to say, hey, let me figure this out. Where do I stand? What's happening? What am I exposed to? How can I fix things in early days of this happening? It just happened.
As soon as you know.
Yeah, as soon as you know. I tell folks all the time, look, when people say, like, I'm not laid off yet, but we've had 5 in this past month and I'm worried, and you know what I tell people? And it's the man that told me this, and I said, you know what? Let me be your second call. You can call her first and tell her, but let us, Freedom Financial, be your second, because let's circle the wagons and let's figure out, let's work plan B if they're already a client, and if they're not already a client, let's start digging down, getting our sleeves rolled up, and figure out how we get this thing together to make it work.
Yeah, and Toni and I talk about this a lot, and we talk about it on our radio show a good bit, because there are companies in and around Birmingham that are laying people off regularly. Even before, economic challenges and all that, their business model was such that they were downsizing, closing plants, offices, all kinds of stuff. And it's not just one, it's different companies around the town. So this has been happening for a while, and now it's being accelerated. And I'll tell you one story of a couple that I was working with. They were planning on working for 5 more years each. They had a high degree of confidence they were going to be able to do that. Even though their company had a round of layoffs and has had for years, they've survived all of those. And so we put a plan together for them, and the plan assumed that they were going to work 5 more years. But we also, because we knew that this was a possibility, we also had a contingency plan in case they were surplused. And less than 90 days, I don't know exactly, within 3 months of when we put their plan in place, they called up and they said, we both have gotten laid off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so we literally went back through everything that we had done. It was like we started over we had the contingency plan in place, but now it was really happening.
It wasn't contingency.
So
it was
we had
plan
to
A.
go back and comb through that thing to make sure we had gotten it right.
Right.
Yep.
And so we were able to go back through and say, okay, this isn't ideal, but here's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And just people being able to know, I've got a plan for what I expect to happen, but I've also got a plan for the unexpected. And so when that unexpected happens, it's not fun, but it's not, death either.
Right.
We've got a way to navigate those waters. And so that gives people a lot of confidence, and it shows them that no matter what happens, if you have a good plan in place, you can adjust.
I call it belt and suspenders. I mean, your you don't want your pants falling down no matter what happens. So if the belt breaks, the suspenders there, vice versa. I mean, because it is true. And what Tad said, this is crazy, but we're now seeing both the husband and the wife getting laid off within, months of each other. I mean, it's not just he did or she did. They both kind of.
So it all starts with making sure you actually have a retirement plan and not just a bucket of investments.
So a good point to step aside in the show. Do you know, really know what to do if you get laid off? It could have a dramatic impact on your retirement plans. And if you're not sure how to weather such a storm, you're going to want to stay with us, because when we come back, Tad and Toni will tell us how to know if you've got the right advisor to help you navigate the uncertainty of losing your job. But first, here's how to contact Tad and Toni to schedule your complimentary retirement review or to sign up for their next retirement course, where they will cover the topics we discussed today in detail.
What does your retirement look like? Is it filled with travel, time with grandchildren, uninterrupted rounds at the golf course?
We sit down with people just like you every day and help you plan the retirement of your dreams.
Our experience tells us that you've got some very important questions about retirement. What happens when my paychecks stop? How do I replace my income as securely as possible? What's the best way to protect my savings and investments so that they last as long as I live? Is my family going to be okay when I'm gone? We can show you how to answer these questions for you and your family. It all starts with our complimentary review.
Tad and Toni Hill and the team at Freedom Financial Group will develop a custom plan for you that fits your needs and meets your personal goals and helps ensure that you don't outlive your income in retirement.
The best retirement plan starts with a phone call.
We've helped hundreds of families in Birmingham protect their retirement. We're here to take care of you. Give us a call.
Call 205-988-0006 today to schedule a visit in our office on Valleydale Road.
Welcome back to Retire with Freedom with Tad and Toni Hill, founders of Freedom Financial here in Birmingham. So we've been talking about how to recover from a layoff during the years leading up to retirement, and you've helped us to understand the importance of planning for an event like that. But it seems that a lot of folks don't know exactly what they should be getting from their financial advisor when the chips are down. Yeah. So it's hard for them to know if their advisor is doing a good job or not. Can you explain what people should expect from their advisor if they do get laid off?
Well, the operative phrase being when the chips are down, right? And we talk about this, and if people's experience is different than this, then that's great. But what I've found is too common in the world of financial planning is that people are just managing folks' investments. They've diversified their portfolio, and that's the alpha and omega of everything that they've done, right? And so if you're going to go through a life event like this, you better have a plan. Yeah. So there's a few things I would be looking at in terms of who I'm working with. Do they specialize in retirement planning? Most people will work with anybody in any walk of life. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But retirement is a very unique period in our life. It's something we've never gone through before. And there's a huge change that takes place. Your income goes away. Yeah. And now you've got to live on your life savings. Right. And if that happens before you expect it to, now you really better have a plan. Right. And you better be working with somebody who's thought through this issue, the retirement planning, income going away. How are we going to generate income? Not, oh, we got a bucket of investments and we're going to earn this huge rate of return and you can just pull money out and we'll just sell investments and whatever you've got, we're pulling 4, 5, 6% out, which by the way, those too many people are taking too much out of their plans and their advisors never tell them.
And they don't know it,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so if an event like a layoff happens, you need to be working with a specialist who has been down this road hundreds of times. Yep. The other thing is you need to have somebody that has a process, a planning process. And we talk about our Retire with Freedom process. Right. But really what that is, David, is it's a problem-solving process. Because let's think about what retirement is. Retirement is a multi-decade project. Yep. We've got all the money we're ever going to have. Right. We get one chance to plan it. We can't afford to get it wrong, and we don't want to have to worry about it the whole time. Right. Well, that process, let's get a picture of what you want. We stress test what's going on. We design the plan. We build it. We guide you moving forward. If you followed that process to solve any problem in the world, yep, you would end up with a pretty good result.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get a picture of what you want, you stress test what's happening, you design the right solution, you build it, and then you track it moving forward, and you guide through that process that is designed to make sure that we can weather an eventuality like this. So that's what I'd be making sure my advisor has, is all those things: specialization, a process, a plan, not just a bucket of investment.
And I find that a lot of folks don't do this. It's very time consuming to do this, to get this
Oh,
right.
100%.
We are spending, 35, 40 man hours on the front end just to design and make sure not only do we think it's going to work, but we audit our own process to make sure it's going to work and stay cash flow positive.
We actually follow the process when we do the guide. So we do the process to solve the problem, and then the guiding is we go back through the process to double check what's happened to make sure that we don't need to be making any changes.
And we're also staying ahead of things 25 rolling years out. We are ahead of the game so far, so that if any little thing comes up, like a layoff, something like that, we're making adjustments, not like, oh my gosh, everything's on fire, well, there's an emergency. So the other thing I think is in the very beginning, when you first meet with a client, when you meet with a family there, and you get to know them and you talk about what they need and what they want and what really is going on, here's the thing that I hear all the time, and I know we talk about this and you do too. People tell us all the time that this first visit we have with you, you know more about me than the guy I've been working with for 15 years. I've never been asked this.
It's about what kind of questions and how many questions are you actually asking.
Yeah, and so it's horrible, I think, that someone would be managing someone's life savings and know so little about them. They don't know what they care about. I mean, why would I just assume what I care about and what's important to me is important to everybody I meet with? I haven't met with two people that are just alike ever.
And I realize that we might be sounding a little like we think we walk on water. Listen, we're not perfect. Yeah. We make mistakes. We don't get everything right all the time. And we're not suggesting that. What I'm saying is, this really matters to us. The trust that people place in us is a very serious responsibility, and it's one that we take seriously. And so this process that we follow is designed to make sure that we minimize the mistakes that we can make. We're human, we all make mistakes. But if you follow a strong process and you follow it every time to the T, you're eliminating a lot of the mistakes that could easily get made without it.
Right.
All right, after the break, Tad shares how to make sure that you are retirement ready. That's coming up in our Freedom Factor segment. Also still to come, Tad and Toni are going to answer some of your questions. First, though, here's how to contact Tad and Toni to sign up for their next retirement course or to schedule your complimentary retirement review.
What does your retirement look like? Is it filled with travel, time with grandchildren, uninterrupted rounds at the golf course?
We sit down with people just like you every day and help you plan the retirement of your dreams.
Our experience tells us that you've got some very important questions about retirement. What happens when my paychecks stop? How do I replace my income as securely as possible? What's the best way to protect my savings and investments so that they last as long as I live? Is my family going to be okay when I'm gone? We can show you how to answer these questions for you and your family. It all starts with our complimentary review.
Tad and Toni Hill and the team at Freedom Financial Group will develop a custom plan for you that fits your needs and meets your personal goals and helps ensure that you don't outlive your income in retirement.
The best retirement plan starts with a phone call.
We've helped hundreds of families in Birmingham protect their retirement. We're here to take care of you. Give us a call.
Call 205-988-0006 today to schedule a visit in our office on Valleydale Road.
Welcome back to Retire with Freedom. In today's Freedom Factor, Tad is here to discuss how to build your custom retirement plan. Tad?
Thanks, David. Okay, what we're talking about today, folks, is what happens if the unexpected should strike. What happens if you get laid off or fired, or you decide to quit, or you get surplused? Do you have a plan in place so that you can weather that storm? Do not wait until that day happens. Get a plan in place now. If you're less than 10 years away from retirement, it's time to do this. Now, the question is, how do you do it? So, as we do everything on this show, we start first with our Retire with Freedom process. This is a retirement planning process that is designed to leave no stone unturned. This is not about which stock or bond should I buy. I mean, that's a piece of it. But it's really about how do I answer the most important questions that are on my mind and make sure that I've got an answer that gives me as much certainty as possible. So the first thing we do is start with a picture of what you want your retirement to look like. Do you want to travel? Is it time with the kids and grandkids? More time with your church or the charity that you're passionate about? Hobbies, those sorts of things. We've got to get a vision of how you're going to spend your time, energy, and resources. And we can't just skip past this. This is critical because this whole thing, it's not about money. Money is just a tool to help you accomplish what matters to you the most. So we've got to get clear on what that is. And if you're married, we got to make sure you're both on the same page. Once we're clear on that, then we stress test what you're doing now. The stress test shows us, here are all the things that mean that you're prepared, and then here are all the things that mean that you're not prepared. So the things that mean you're prepared are good, and the things that mean you're not prepared need to be fixed. And so we've got to identify what those are. Do we have an income plan, or really you've just got some investments? How do we minimize taxes as much as possible? Do you have health care costs taken into account? All of these things. When do you take your Social Security? Should you pay your house off? All of these questions are those things that need to be addressed, and that's what the stress test shows us. Then we go into the design phase, which is, here are the ways we can address those problems. Just common sense, straightforward approach on what are the different paths we can take, what are the different solutions we can bring to the table, and what are the pros and cons of those solutions, and then we collaboratively agree on what that needs to look like. Once we agree on the design, then we build the plan, we put it in place. Then the last piece is the most important of the whole thing, and that is, who's going to guide you for the next 20 or 30 years? It's not enough to get a plan in place, because plans are going to change. No matter how good it is, things are going to change. We've got to make sure that we can navigate those waters and that you've got a trusted advisor to be able to help you do that. And so you've got to decide, who do you want giving you advice and guiding you for the next 20 or 30 years? Now, let's go into the stress test, because this is if you get laid off, this is probably the most important thing that we can do for you, is show you how much exposure do you have to something beyond your control. You can't control getting laid off, and you can't control the stock market, and you can't control the economy. So let's look at the tale of two brothers, I call it. We've got Steve and Bill. Steve retired in 1990, and we're looking at the decade of the 90s, one of the best decades in the history of the stock market. Bill retired in 2000, which is the worst decade in the history of the stock market. They both had $500,000, and they both took $30,000 a year out, but at the end of the decade for Steve, he had more than doubled his money and taken out $300,000. Bill was running out of money. I mean, basically he's out. So all you've got to do is look at the numbers here, and if we're overexposed to these uncontrollable forces, and that's your retirement plan, and you get laid off, it's basically a dice roll. It's like taking your retirement to Vegas and hoping for the best, because this is the math. This is financial science. This isn't somebody's opinion. This is actually what would have happened to these two folks in those scenarios. So how do we manage around that? Well, we've got to build your fiscal house. And I've talked about this in detail in other shows. You can also come to our retirement course and I talk about it in detail. But today we're going to focus on the foundation, which is, how do we get you the income you're going to need? Well, there's a few ways to get income in retirement. And first, let's back up and talk about what it feels like for people. If you're working, it's like you're on solid ground because you've got your salary. And then you see this sign that says, "Welcome to retirement." And that salary goes away, and what most people have, typically based upon the advice of your broker or banker, is what I call the rope bridge into the mist. And this is just a bucket of stocks and bonds that you're going to pull money out as you need it. And the strategy goes something like this. Don't worry, take out 4 or 5%, you're going to be fine, we're going to earn you 8 or 10. Look at this chart that shows you that the stock market has gone up and to the right forever, and don't worry about all those storms that are going to happen, because you're going to be on this bridge for 25 or 30 years, and you're going to have all these storms, and there's going to be times where the market's correcting, maybe even crashing. We're going to have interest rate issues and economic troubles and those sorts of things, but you just ignore all that and hang in there. So if you've got a plan that has been described to you, anything like that, then you're on Bill and Steve's plan, and it's the luck of the draw, because that's what they have. They've got the rope bridge. Now, there's other ways to do this. One is to build a steel bridge into the mist where we're being a lot more careful, a lot more conservative with your money. We're using stocks and bonds exclusively, but maybe we're investing more for dividends and interest. Maybe we're just being more conservative with the overall portfolio so that we're not exposed to those kind of downside risks. But they're into the mist because we don't know how long we're going to be on this bridge. So a third way to get the income, now again, we're just talking about the foundation of the house. We're not talking about your long-term growth money or any of that. We're talking about how to get the income. Another way to do this is a steel bridge to solid ground. And the solid ground is by taking certain types of fixed annuities and getting an income provision that will pay you for both lifetimes, for either yourself or yourself and your spouse, depending on how you design it. But if something happens to you and there's money in the account, that goes to your kids. And the way this works is we put money in there today, and for every year we wait, your income will go up by a set percentage. Right now, it's about 9% for most people. So your income will go up by 9%, and then once we turn on the income, that plus your Social Security and or pension is paying all your bills. So now we have a solid foundation, we have solid ground that you can count on to be able to pay the bills. That's the foundation of the fiscal house. Now the rest of the house, we need to put that together as well, but today's really about if you get laid off, how do we make sure you're able to support your lifestyle and not have to worry about it? You've got plenty of certainty. So what should you do next? I strongly encourage you to take action. Give us a call. Either come in for a complimentary review where we will walk you through how to do all this, or come to our next retirement course where I go deep, 2.5 hours of plain English, common sense retirement planning, explaining how to do all this. But don't delay. Take action now before the unexpected happens so you know you've got a plan. David?
Thank you, Tad. Still to come here on the show, we'll hear directly from you in our Q&A segment. But first, don't miss out on this special offer from Toni and Tad.
What does your retirement look like? Is it filled with travel, time with grandchildren, uninterrupted rounds at the golf course?
We sit down with people just like you every day and help you plan the retirement of your dreams.
Our experience tells us that you've got some very important questions about retirement. What happens when my paychecks stop? How do I replace my income as securely as possible? What's the best way to protect my savings and investments so that they last as long as I live? Is my family going to be okay when I'm gone? We can show you how to answer these questions for you and your family. It all starts with our complimentary review.
Tad and Toni Hill and the team at Freedom Financial Group will develop a custom plan for you that fits your needs and meets your personal goals and helps ensure that you don't outlive your income in retirement.
The best retirement plan starts with a phone call.
We've helped hundreds of families in Birmingham protect their retirement. We're here to take care of you. Give us a call.
Call 205-988-0006 today to schedule a visit in our office on Valleydale Road.
Welcome back to Retire with Freedom. I'm David Lamb here with Tad and Toni Hill, founders of Freedom Financial Group. It's time to get to some of the questions you have for Tad and Toni. Let's get started. Our first question comes from Steve in Vestavia. Now, here's what Steve asks. He says, I'm 58 and was just informed by my company that I'll be laid off in 60 days. Hard to hear, but we're hearing more of that for sure. I'll be able to stay on the company health insurance plan for a year and will be given a 6-month severance package. I have the option of taking my pension as a monthly income or lump sum. How do I decide on the pension, and what else do I need to think about as I plan my steps moving forward?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that's happening. On a few things. On the pension, if you're going to take the lump sum, you want to be super careful that you don't take that money, take too much risk with it, lose half of it, and now you gave up a lifetime income and you've lost half your money. And too frequently, people are given that advice. So if we're going to take the lump sum on a pension, I will only take a lump sum pension and use fixed annuities that will get us lifetime income for both spouses. But one of the reasons people want to take the lump sum is because if they pass away, they want there to be money left for the kids. And if they take the annuity from their company and they pass away, there's no money. So we can take the lump sum, move it over, use fixed annuities with a lifetime income provision.
And typically get more income.
And get more income a lot of times. Sometimes we're taking less income. It just depends on their situation. But they really want that lump sum to be available. So with the annuities that we use, if something happens to you and there's money still in there, that can go to the kids. So that's important for people to know if you're thinking about pensions, that sort of thing. The other thing is, we have to have a plan. You know, we beat this drum, but it is so critical that we go through a planning process and figure out how much can you spend, what is a sustainable lifestyle, how do we get the income that you need, how do we get growth, and how do we answer all the most important questions for you and your family to ensure that your plan's going to work.
Okay, our final question comes from Simon in River Chase. He says, now that the children are off the payroll, my plan was to work 5 more years, save a ton of money for retirement. However, he just got surplus. He is 60 years old and wondering what options he has now.
Well, I'm sorry that happened, Simon. You know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's a record that needs to be worn grooves in, because we have to sit down. And when I say get a plan, let me take a second. When I say get a plan, I mean sit down and think through everything that we're going to face in retirement, that we know we're going to face, and the things that we think we might face, right? The expected and the unexpected, or the semi-unexpected. Right. We have to think through all that stuff. And if you've never done it before, you don't know how to think through it. Right? I mean, we say this on the radio a lot. Unless you're a retirement planner, your retirement's the first one you've ever planned. Right? And the first time we do stuff, is that our best work? No. So how do we make sure that we've got the right strategy for Social Security? What are we going to do about taxes? How do we generate income? How do we make sure that that income's going to last and it's going to be sustainable? What do we do about leaving the money behind? Should we pay the house off? You know, can you work part-time? Can you, if you're 60, if you're 60 and you get laid off, I mean, again, a little gallows humor, but age discrimination is alive and well, right? It's hard for a 60-year-old to go get a job earning what he's used to earn, he or she are used to earning. So there's a lot of things that need to be thought through there, and that's what our planning process does.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but especially at his age, because he's 60, he's 5 years away from even Medicare, and at least a couple from early Social Security. So this has really got to be thought through.
All right, here's the good news. People's situations is usually a lot better than they think it is. Really? Yes. Once we sit down, most people are like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this. I can live with this."
Absolutely.
And so that's I want to put that ray of sunshine out there.
There is hope.
Right.
Thank you guys for that, and thank you for your questions. If you have a question, you can visit askfreedomfinancial.com or call the number on your screen, and we just might use one of your questions on a future show. But most importantly, do yourself a favor and act on the information you've heard today. Call or text to sign up for our next retirement planning course or to schedule your complimentary retirement review. Don't wait until you're scrambling to catch up. Protect your retirement for the sake of yourself and your family. Call now. For Tad and Toni Hill and the entire team at Freedom Financial, I'm David Lamb. Have a great day and an even better retirement.